Hi, everyone. Welcome to another insightful webinar, which is named after Decoding Community ROI. That's the need of the hour. Everyone is looking at what we need to have for the ROI. I am Nikhil Sharma, having an exciting hour ahead for us to talk about the financial aspects of communities with our two incredible speakers, which I will just introduce quickly. So, first of all, first up is Carrie Melissa Jones. We call her Carrie, we call her CMJ, and she's an award-winning author, community builder, researcher of online communities. Her work has influenced communities all across: startups, nonprofits, solopreneurs, world's leading brand. Name them: Nike, Google, Microsoft, Airbnb, Discord, American Medical Association, and she has also campaigned for 2 US presidential campaigns. Wonderful. And yes, she's a founding partner of CMX and co-author of the book Building Brand Communities with Charles Walls. So, Carrie, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for today to talk about this very, very important topic.
Yeah, thank you. And next up, we have Francisco Opazo. He's the head of the growth and community at Bettermode. He's a recognized thought leader in community-led growth. His extensive experience in marketing and community engagement, agile practices, and the passion for educational entrepreneurship have been pivotal in driving transformative growth for the communities. So Francisco is also a strategic visionary and a thought leader, which harness the powers of community to enhance the revenue streams. So welcome, Francisco, and it's our pleasure for us to be here.
Nice. Thank you I'm really excited for this discussion. To be honest, I think you missed two things. You missed from Carrie that she's also super mom.
Oh, yeah.
And on my side that I am founder of Led by Community. That's it. All good.
Thanks for adding that, Francisco. Thank you. Yep. So setting the stage, we begin. Before we just dive into our how communities help brands generate the ROI. So can we just take a moment to reflect on the significance, I would say, of these thriving hubs of information, which is like getting a major attraction these days, which is landscape at all. So Carrie, can you just take us through the transformative impact of such online communities and the challenges the business face that they don't adopt when they don't adopt the online communities?
Yeah, so I mean, we've seen a huge spike in interest around building online communities by brands in the last 5 years, but this work has been going on for within a business context, over 20 years. And there are some fundamental business challenges that communities can help resolve that a lot of business owners and business leaders don't often recognize that communities have this power, but I see them over and over again. And we talk about in Building Brand Communities, the book, there's 7 different reasons why an organization might invest in a community. And so some of the challenges that we see when someone comes to us and is saying our business is struggling is that they're struggling to innovate. We've heard product managers or folks who are building, especially software products, saying they feel like they're flying blind in terms of what to build, when to build it, what to release in what order. And communities can help to start to create a two-way conversation between product teams and the customers that will actually end up using those products and services. We also see challenges with customer service and time to response and quality of response, customer effort scores, all these things. And I think at the crux of a lot of the challenges is a real loss of trust between organizations and their customers, which has been that's a major theme globally going on right now, is just a lack of trust in institutions. And community building at its core can help to resolve this broken trust, because you start to actually create real relationships with your customers, with your partners, with your suppliers, whoever else might be important to your success. And then you can mend some of that broken trust by really intentionally investing in community building. So those are just some of the ways that we see businesses really, really struggling before implementing communities today.
Great. And do this community which you just talk about, so it happens for both B2B, B2C sort of an arrangement that happens.
It happens, yeah. B2B, B2C. I've seen B2B to C, where a business will sell to another business that sells to customers. They're struggling with it. We've worked across all sectors, all industries. This crisis of trust is happening at every level of society, frankly. And so the only way to resolve it is to really focus on human connection and resolving some of the problems that have broken trust. Yeah.
If I can add
Sure.
some
Francisco,
ideas.
but do you want to have your take on it?
For instance, I would say when we talk about challenges, on top of this large list that keeps piling because there are many challenges, we are mostly, if it is easier to process in our minds if we just say, what are companies missing out by not running online communities? No, and then for instance, a big one is innovation, as Carrie mentioned. Then we can say that engagement and loyalty is something that they are missing out to build up. Then the second one could be also customers' insights. Not only about your product, but across your whole organization. Because on communities, they speak openly. Hey, I experienced this with John last week and was amazing, or was really awful, and people are really frankly sharing away. And then one extra could be that people actually can share insights that valuable that the company can even move faster in the way that they do, as I said, customer experience or product innovation. So those are also a few kind of big missings that companies face if they decide to not invest in community. We have the long list of benefits, but probably they want to understand also what they are missing out, because that is easy to understand from positive or 1-0, right?
Yeah, rightly said, Francisco. I think these online communities are obviously and certainly the backbone, the major in the structure of any business that we work with, and these are the mediums of businesses that to stay connected with customers across geographies 24/7 and have their relative ask, updates, anything. So so that's happening with the online communities. That's why we promote to having online communities. So moving on, can we just talk about a little more about the misconceptions around the financial impact of online communities? So Francisco, while ROI I know is very much crucial for business functions, which happens, and so how do we approach the concept of the value and ROI when it comes to online communities, making sure the CXO level is quite aware, they can really make sure the ROI is generated, which has some space in the monthly meetings and our standard dashboards.
Well, I think that the business people is looking after the money. That's the main thing. So I would say that we need to help them understand how or what is the community value beyond financial metrics. Now, for instance, a few areas are engagement, participation. Now, people could learn how to, let's say, set up the right tracking, the right metrics, understand what is the community engagement rate, participation, events attendance. Also, let's say, how much the members are contributing with the discussions rather than just the community team. Also, another area is customer support and satisfaction. How is the community contributing towards reducing the number of tickets, also the timing of those tickets. And then the other bit that sometimes at business level can be missed is how much really peer-to-peer are helping each other. Now, because in the end, what we want to build is advocates, right? Like we want raving fans advocating for what we are doing, whatever it is, a brand, a product, a service. The community can also help on those areas. So I would say this is one of the points that I kind of just try to go beyond just financial metrics. Then I would say there are a few more that we can also discuss. Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to just chime in and say what all other methods, or you want to?
Oh yeah, I have like 10.
In the next hour.
Okay.
Reading all the metrics.
Stay tuned. No, but mostly I wanted to say like how it's important to also put in place qualitative benefits. You know, for instance, these are kind of a consequence of the execution of a proper community strategy, like brand loyalty and advocacy. And then, for instance, the feedback that you can receive on your product. For instance, the Lego community. Probably, if we try to relate these ideas with communities, real communities, probably that will be really helpful for people who are joining us today, because not all of us have had the chance to join all those communities, or even manage them, right? For instance, regarding the innovation and feedback, the Lego community is like, I would say, excuse the word, but it's dope. How they gather ideas from the members, and actually they turn every potential new idea into a whole new product that generates millions for Legos. But if there is no Lego community, they will be missing out on all those innovations and whole new lines of products. So I would say that is a huge impact in return of investment in community. This is one example. And then for the one that we were talking about, customer support and satisfaction, a good example is the Salesforce Trailblazer community. Now, for instance, they track how much active are their customers participating, so they can understand how engaged are customers and users of the platform, on top of how much each business they belong is spending in the platform or is expanding in the platform. Yes.
Yep. And just to make engaged, they get you certain gamifications, they give you rewards, and so many things that happens over the community. Carrie, do you want to chime in for ROI? Like, how do we...
I mean, I think it's really important, especially for those of you who are here who are starting new communities from scratch, that this conversation is different when you're pre-launch versus years and years and years down the line. So there's amazing examples of communities like Salesforce, like Lego. They've been around for years. And so I think it's really important that that we educate executives when we are building our communities, that this takes time. It takes time to see that level of ROI. It takes time to build a community of these raving fans like Lego has, which, by the way, they've almost shut it down like multiple times. And it's like, they have shut it down and like relaunched it, and it's gone through multiple iterations. It's just really, really important that we set some realistic expectations. So when I'm working with clients, we're looking at what are the short-term ways that we're going to measure ROI or return on investment, and then what are the long-term ways? And short-term, I mean anything less than 18 months. So anything less than a year and a half. And long-term is a year and a half and forward. So if your community has been around for a year and a half and you don't have an ROI model, I would say like you're actually starting from this first group that I talked about. But the short-term aspects of what we want to be looking for in the short term, there's both qualitative insights like stories and feedback we can be getting and sharing with our teams that we can be sharing in the short term. And then there's also quantitative aspects. So you do want to be looking at, and Francisco mentioned these, participation. What is engagement like? And be very clear about what engagement actually means on your platform. How is the community growing in the short term? Because you want to be able to tell a story of how participation is either steady or growing, how the community is growing, so that over time, then you can build up this foundation so that in the long term, you can tell the business impact story. So the long-term metrics that we need to be looking at all have to do with, as you mentioned, Francisco, like we have to relate our work somehow back to top line revenue or bottom line, like cost savings. So at the end of the day, that's what, in an organization that is for profit, that's what we have to tell a story around in the long term. But it takes about 18 months for us to get to that point and start to set benchmarks and all that. So I just think it's really important, especially for those of you who don't yet have a community launched, that you can set expectations for those first 18 months and then going forward from there. One last thing that I'll say about this is just that in those first 18 months, you still should be able to tie the work that you're doing back to what will be the business impact of this in 18 months. So maybe it is, I think Chris is mentioning here like case deflection, so cost savings. Maybe it is loyalty, so you've built up this ambassador program of however many members. Maybe it is like the examples are endless, ideas. And so we need to be telling a story through everything that we're doing.
Yep, true. I think that's how it's well connected. And as you just mentioned, the case deflection, cost saving, which is the one of the ROI metrics which happens all across in the organization, which have the support function to run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last idea on this, if I may. Also, another good example is the HubSpot community. Still is long established, but for instance, what they do is they track, how active are their users, because they can then, based on, let's say, on which forums they are participating, they can also detect opportunities for upselling and expansion.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like just like, hey, we are good and we want to help you learn how to use our platform. It's like, hey, maybe now you're ready for the next level of automation and things like that. So it's and this is directly aligned with the business goals. Now, in the end, we want to have, as Carrie mentioned, the initial set. Hey, this is our short goal. Then this is like the long run, but also even across. There are certain things that can trigger ROI right away. Like, let's say you have two months a member in, and you notice, oh, he's asking lots about how that compares with this and that. Oh, maybe they need a simple email for offering a demo or something like that. Maybe they were not even aware of they need that, and this data from the community helped them realize. So I think I will try to share kind of examples that I came to my mind, so we can link, because we are sharing so many ideas. I think that is useful.
It's so context specific. Like, I think that's what is really important. There's no way we can just come onto this webinar and say, here's your metrics dashboard.
Exactly.
The conversations with your team are what is going to help you understand what is that ROI going to be. And we cannot shortcut those conversations. I work with so many community builders who are really afraid to have those conversations because they can be really scary. Don't know how to have them. And that is the work that we need to do to become not just community managers, but also to lead within our organizations, because that's where so many folks get roadblocked and they get stuck. Can't move their work forward.
Yep. I think that's the nice way to update convey the timelines, talk to teams, and make sure that are well aligned with your short-term and long-term goals that we can. Okay, so my next question is to you, Carrie. So as for you, what are the most valuable KPIs and metrics that we're just talking about beyond basic engagement that on the communities, like welcome, how are you, what's the insights are, and what they can provide, these engagements can provide you the insight into the financial impact of a online community. So how would you get the KPIs and metrics?
Yeah. So I have a blog post that I have written and updated that goes through, depending on which department you might be working within or with. And when I say that, is maybe you're a community manager who works on a product department or in a marketing department. So your KPIs need to ladder up into that department's KPIs. Or if you run a community organization and you work and serve other parts of the organization, if you're working with, let's say, a customer support team, which KPIs should you be looking at? So, I'm not going to necessarily read off everything that's on there. There's a lot of different ways that you can measure things. I'll start with just a couple, and we can kind of talk about these. And I'm sure, Francisco, you have more to add to this conversation. And we're talking about really big picture impact. I think one of the things we can be looking at is net recurring revenue, and net recurring revenue in terms of looking at pre and post community launch. So how is revenue being affected by having this community in place is one of the really, really big bottom line kind of metrics that we want to be looking at. There's also other KPIs such as time to sale, or what's often called sales velocity. And this was something Chris Detzel was mentioning in the comments here, upsell, cross-sell, net new revenue, all these things. Being able to, so your community efforts need to also be tied into your CRM or your customer relationship management software, because that's going to help you to track things like sales velocity and pipeline, like how the sales pipeline is being influenced by community activity. And another thing, this is more of like your traditional customer support forum kind of community metric, but customer effort scores, or like how much effort is it taking someone to get the answer to their questions, is another metric that a lot of folks are looking at. So yeah, this is just the beginning of kind of like where we can begin this conversation. But yeah, I would love to hear, Francisco, what you have to add to some of these examples.
Yeah, I would say an example of a good example of where maybe we don't have in mind that it's a community, but Amazon reviews and comments is a huge thing. Like, let's say for instance, on movies, for example, you can 4,000 comments sometimes, 4,000 reviews, and the same with other products like the hot products. No, but this is an example, and Amazon is studying how people interact with each other. Let's say people who read certain reviews, their behavior towards purchasing habits is different than others. So even at that level, like we could kind of dive deep in how different companies can use this level of community, very lightweight, no community platform, nothing extra, nothing fancy. Even that level of can trigger a high customer retention rate. This is an example of how Amazon kind of get learnings and insights from only that point. Then going back to the example of hotspot, that as well is similar. For instance, we could just try to understand how people who are already using or community, or let's say the community, are actually using a certain degree the features of the platform. And that means, as I said before, there are lots of opportunities for growth. And one of the points that I mentioned earlier was the tracking idea. No matter if you're using Hotspot or maybe Salesforce for your CRM, for your pipe, probably that is the only way to really know. So there is no way that you can speak the language of your business, like the money, if you don't have all that in place. Like your community efforts will be lost if all the touch points that your community is generating towards members is not reflected on the CRM by the time that the sales team is reaching out or they get booked a sales demo for any service or platform. And one that was mentioned similar is, depending of the niche, is we talk about upsells and opportunities, but also the average order value can also be a parameter that we can set as KPI. Let's say Shopify has a community, and then we need to understand, okay, but what are these people doing and all that. So there are like 9 kind of just like regular metrics like customer lifetime value and things like that. But what we want to understand, as Carrie mentioned, is that we should select wisely which KPIs are for our case, for the company or the business or the brand that we are serving. And then, because otherwise it doesn't make sense to try to track everything. It really is not what we are aiming, or even mostly executives. It's not what they want to learn. I mean, sometimes you can have a big report and, hey, I just need to know really how much the expansion was for every member who touched the community last month. I just need that, for instance. So we need to track exactly what matters to our organization.
Okay,
that's it.
Yep. I think nicely said, guys. But out of one of the major KPIs that, as per my point of view, is user satisfaction ratings, and how user is satisfied when this, because it drives many things out of user satisfaction. Either it's ads or upsell, cross-sell. So once the user gets the right amount of answer, or the queries being answered, how he's being treated. So I think that really dwells the next level for anyone as a user. Either it's a B2B or we just talked about. Thank you, guys. Francisco, quick question to you here. So what steps should a business take to measure such ROIs from a community? Any thoughts, any ideas you have?
I think that the steps are lots, but the starting point, I would say, first, define objectives and goals. So if you have a clear objective and goals, you should first identify what can your community achieve. Let's say you are working, many times you are working alone in the community. Maybe you have one, like community engagement manager supporting you, but you need to understand what really your community can achieve and set goals for that. Let's say increase engagement, maybe participation from customers. Maybe your community can also act as a lead generation funnel, maybe also as a customer support. So you need to first understand how big your community scope can be serving community members. And then once you have clarity on your side, like which things you could do on your community, then you need to try to align those with the business goals. So you have your community goals and then the business goals. And then you need to try to find ways to map them. Let's say the business has a broader goal. Let's say, hey, we are aiming for, after, let's say, a new customer joins the community, usually the logical flow will be that in 3 months, they should start expanding on any upgrade. Let's say they have already with the data, a forecast that usually is 3 months what happened. And then the community can contribute to maybe reduce that. So I would say first step, define objectives and goals. Second one is then select from these, we mentioned a few, but select which ones are your relevant KPIs. You don't need to go for all of them. And also, especially if you are trying to start proving that you can generate return, you need to select only relevant that are, for instance, engagement rate, customer retention, NPS. Even like last year, Rebecca Marshboom from Common Room started to run an experiment and calling this, instead of NPS, more like CPS, like community promoting score, rather than just net promoter, community promoter score. She did an experiment, like a survey and all that. It was really interesting. We did the same then in our community. And then, of course, you need to set proper tracking for everything happening. Like sometimes, let's say a regular Google Analytics will fall short. So sometimes you might need additional help. Even community platforms sometimes are really very limited on what they are tracking, but you can set additional tracking or at least track events using Google Tag Manager, for instance, and then you can track all this information. Or if you have already, and not every company has that, but also you can go deep with Mixpanel and with segment, things like that. But it depends how many resources do you have available. Better Mode has segment and hotspot integration, just saying. So you can, and of course the Google Tag Manager. And the last bit, is also you need to set a bit of calculations. Let's say, okay, you have your goals, you have your KPIs, you have everything kind of tracked as it should be. Then you need to understand, okay, what I'm going to do with all this data. Then you need to put this data against numbers. And then you should try to calculate ROI. Try to, what we are doing, let's say, all these are the expenses of the community work. And then all these are the outcomes that the community work is generating every quarter and so on. I would say this kind of follow as a few steps to start properly measuring ROI. Yeah.
Good. Thanks. Any takes from your end, Carrie? You want to add something here? Or
no, I'm in complete agreement. I usually the structure that I teach, I walk people through the ABCs of KPI, which is exactly what Francisco just explained. Okay. It's assess and align with your team, brainstorm the ways in which you will be tracking and measuring success, and then choose. And you really need to choose as few as possible metrics as you can. Because you can track all day. You could spend your whole job just tracking things. But I don't yet know any community managers who want to spend their entire job doing that. So right now, what's important is just picking the most important metrics. And so that's why, going back to the alignment there, it's so important, because you'll need to talk with your team about, if I were to report on X metric or Y metric, would this be meaningful to you? Would it help you to make decisions? Would it help you to decide if we want to continue to invest in this community or not? Because at the end of the day, that's the question that anyone you're sharing this data with is going to be asking is, should we keep investing in this community? So we have to be able to answer that question in a compelling way. And the only way to tell that in a compelling way is to have had conversations and get out of your own silo, out of your own bubble about what you think is important to measure, and talk to other people in your organization about what they want to see measured.
Yeah,
correct. I think that this bit of reporting and communicating result is key. So I think that especially, I mean, I'm not the best doing that. So I put that on my notes to improve that. But yeah, I would say report and communicate results. Mostly is, I would say, just try to find an easy way to explain your data. No, because you can have like a row in spreadsheet number up and down. Try to even like maybe turn them into graphics. Like you can show progress across the week or the month or the quarter or the year. But try to develop a comprehensive way on reporting the community efforts. And of course, share with as many stakeholders as possible. Yeah.
I think a lot of us just overcomplicate this too. We think we start to think about analytics and we get overwhelmed and we're like, okay, I can't do this. And there's a lot of community managers who think I'm not good at math, so therefore I'm not going to be good at building this report. Actually, it's not about math at all. It's about storytelling. So exactly to your point. And this is one of the excellent powers that I think artificial intelligence will cut out the middleman of having to do the math. I mean, spreadsheets have been doing it for ages, but now you can go into Google, even if your data is in a Google sheet, you can go into Google's AI and ask, create a graph that shows this, and it will pull the chart so that you don't even have to figure out the formulas for it anymore. And I think it's just going to get better over time. I can't guarantee results. Results are not guaranteed in terms of the quality of the AI output. I'm obviously not developing it, so I have no idea. But that's the kind of stuff where we can get out of our own way. The simpler and more concise we can be, the better. And I will note that getting to simplicity is very hard. It's hard to be simple. But if you can get there, that's where you need to be. And again, that's where the work is.
Yeah. So, sorry, last idea before closing this topic. And once you have at least your MVP version of reporting, then listen feedback. Be open to tweak, and iterate, because I think that this is a never-ending process to refine. Maybe you are showing data that is still not relevant. Take it off. Maybe you get feedback to, hey, why if let's say we try to measure data from cohorts. What if what happened on the first 14 days? Are we able to maybe get sales during the 14 days that someone joins the community? An example. Maybe they want to start tracking that cohort as an example. So we can always improve and iterate on how we are reporting. I think,
Mm-hmm.
I think you just mentioned, Carrie, that tools and measuring how do you do that. So do you think that the measuring community for ROI, implementing tools would really get you the right direction? As you just mentioned that Google now gives you graphs, AI is happening, analysis is happening. So would implementing a tool really get you the quick answer?
Smart implementation of the tool will get you the answer. I mean, we can't rely on the tool entirely. And so another thing I'll say is coming to things like this and having conversations with your fellow community managers about what they're doing. If you feel completely stuck, if what we're talking about right now just feels like it's way over your head, that's okay. And that's a sign to continue to connect with other community managers and see what they're doing, see how they're implementing tools. And so, I mean, the tool's not going to solve all your problems. That's never, ever, ever the case. And a lot of tools will give you too much information, and then other tools will give you not enough. There's a lot of community platforms out there, Better Mode not included, that they don't give you the actual data that would be helpful for decision making. So they'll give you things. There's one I'm thinking about in particular that's it'll give you an activity rate or something like that. But that might be somewhat interesting for you, but nobody on your leadership team cares about that at all. And if you can't tie that activity rate to other kinds of money related outcomes, then you're going to run into a brick wall in terms of getting continued investment in your work. But I also want to acknowledge that so much of my consulting work is about figuring out these metrics and KPIs. So it's not it can take months months to determine the right KPIs and the right metrics. And that is normal. And there's nothing to worry about that you're too slow on it, because getting them right really, really does take time. And I think a lot of us just want to like create the dashboard and then be done. But that's not how it works. But I will encourage you to play with whatever tools you can get your hands on. Like if you are lucky enough to be able to use Search Unify or anything like that in your community, play around with as many tools as you possibly can and see, like, run some experiments. I love that example, Francisco, of like running a cohort-based experiment where maybe you implement like new onboarding and you look at, okay, we ran this experiment in our community where we implemented this new onboarding flow. And because of that, activity is up this much percent. These people have shown interest in, or they've like advocated for our brand, maybe like with their referral code or whatever you might be doing to measure success. It takes time and it takes patience and it takes experimentation. And this is as much the work as is like event planning and moderation and all of that stuff. Yeah.
And then open to feedback, how things move, and then you open to change. So that's the only.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Correct. So moving on to a little other topic, which says best practice and strategies for community. So I think for both of you being the professionals, thorough professionals here. So some practical tips and strategies for our community professionals who are attending it to make sure that they effectively measure and demonstrate the community ROI to their CX level stakeholders, to their business owners. What can be some tips and tricks for these guys? Anyone? Francisco?
Yeah, of course. I would say sometimes as community builders, community leaders, community managers, sometimes we focus on operation metrics, engagement and comments and replies and visits and page views, things like that. That information is valuable for you, but not for the kind of leadership on the business. So I would say that we need to move away from tracking or try to report on operative metrics and move towards business metrics. This touch is kind of going back a bit on what we already mentioned, but it has to be tied to the clear objectives that we want to have. Align business goals now is the first. And then we should also be humble and set proper and realistic goals, measurable goals. Now, let's say I put a few examples here. For instance, okay, I want to increase, like the book a demo coming from the community only 2% monthly. Something like realistic. Before, let's say the community was not live, so we were not getting any. So then after the first month, you can regroup and say, oh, last month instead of 2 we did 3, so let's set a goal for the next month, maybe and 5, and then you can kind of, until you reach your ballpark where oh, now is the tendency 5 per month, and then you can really set a goal. Let's say, oh, now let's change something so we can really start going up. An example, so we need to define the clear objectives, goals, then again going back to KPIs. And when we are talking about the business, we need to just talk KPIs for the rest of the teams. It's not for you. Let's say maybe community supporting customer success in a way. So we need to talk to them about, hey, how we are going to help you with retention rate. They want to decrease the churn. Usually their goal is churn, CLV. Then we are going to talk with the sales. Now, how can we kind of pass leads towards sales, and then what can be KPIs related to that? So we could kind of direct way have KPIs that belong to different departments. That is how the community can contribute to all of them, and also even the support team. So we are now kind of offering kind of bonuses for customer success, the support team, because we reduce the churn. Well, likely if people are hanging and helping each other in the community, let's say from 1,000 now, the tickets went down 50 this month. So you could set KPIs that touch the community and can have a direct impact on other functions of the business. Those are a way to choose the right KPIs. This has nothing to do with your community, kind of for you, where you track your content and your engagement and all that. It's separate. You want to set KPIs that are for the rest of the company, so they can perceive the value that you are bringing to them that is directly translated into money. Honestly, that's the point, right? And then I would say, going back, and to kind of achieve and deliver on these KPIs, you need to keep tracking, everything, and then try to also use qualitative feedback. It's hard to say for me. Qualitative feedback, using surveys, using polls. Even you could run interviews. Let's say, hey, even that level of, with your community, you can even reach this level of confidence with your members where you run an interview. You can openly ask, hey, do you think that being around the community help you with this decision to kind of expand and amplify the services that you are taking from us? Direct feedback, better. So I would say these are kind of tips, a few.
Right, great. CMJ, anything from your end? Tips and tricks?
I mean, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I would just, again, kind of underline that you have to take this one step at a time. So, work with one team at a time. So work with the sales team, if that's where you want to begin. And I caution executive leaders on this a lot. They want to build a community. They see HubSpots and they see Legos and they're like, well, HubSpot's community is actually there's an MVP community, and then there's their training and development and their partner community, and all of these things. It's a complicated ecosystem, actually, is what it is. It's not just one community forum that they run. But again, they didn't get there on day one. And so I think, just starting with what is the most urgent need that your community can help solve for your business right now, start there. So maybe, like I said earlier, maybe that's with sales. Start there, working closely with the sales team, figuring out how you're going to track conversions and how you're going to report to that for them. Then what will happen inside of organizations, if they're well networked, hopefully, is that the sales team will talk about how impactful that community has been. And then other departments will become interested in your work as well. So customer support might then say, wow, look what the community's been able to do for sales. I've had this idea in the ways that we can leverage community to improve our support process. And then maybe you go to marketing after that. So you don't have to have all of these KPIs, all of these metrics at one time. Start with one area and really focus there.
Great, thank you. Yeah, you were saying something, Francisco?
Oh, love it. I like that. I like that, baby steps. When you say before ABC, because I have a baby, I was imagining the community managers in a table. Hey, let's sing the ABC of KPIs. Now you know your KPIs, kind of. But but I will never forget that. That's amazing. Of course, you on top of try to find ways to connect your KPIs with different functions. You still cost savings, revenue generation, retention, loyalty. Then again, try to, as we shared today, do your best to represent your data visually. Canva, for instance, is the easiest way. You can even enter spreadsheets, CSV, upload, and get things beautifully done. And then try to, on top of showing numbers, try to tell the story. Maybe you want to do a Loom video about analyzing your data on top of the executive meeting, but try to make the data something easy to digest for whoever is going through them. I think that this is a few ideas and tips.
Yep. Thanks for this, Francisco and Carrie. I think, and Francisco, you sing very well. It's a nice.
Yeah. I'm a fan of Little Baby Bam, super simple songs and all that.
All right. We will not be able to finish this webinar without talking about artificial intelligence, which has been discussed. This is the most fascinating things that has been phenomenal thing which is happening across the world and it's quickly changing. Everybody's worried what's going to happen. Is it going to, analysis been taken away, or the jobs might go away? What's going to happen? So how this AI can empower us to value or to demonstrate the community value. Your thought, guys, because AI is happening. It is there now and we have to accept it. Yep. And we have to do it. So how this will empower us? So any things that you have demonstrated, let's say on your tools, on your services, on your consulting, how this is happening?
All right.
Yeah. It's definitely not going anywhere. But I think it's very exciting from this perspective, from the ROI and analysis perspective. It's really, really exciting because it can, and I think will quite quickly take over the need to do like intensive data analysis. Because you can input the data, and then actually, because of the way that large language models are set up, you can basically ask your data questions. You want to be really careful not to put a bunch of your data into ChatGPT because they're going to take all that data and use it for training information. So make sure whatever data you do feed into your AI models, they're like locked down. But you can then, for example, like let's take a tool like Zapier, for example. So Zapier is a tool that integrates different tools. In the past, I know a lot of community managers have been really, really afraid to use it or use anything similar to it. It's not the only product on the market that does what it does. But they instituted AI where you can actually write, you can tell the AI chatbot, like, I want to connect my HubSpot CRM with my, trying to think of one that would be easy. Like, let's just say MailChimp email list. Every time somebody books a demo, I want them to be added to this email list, and I want them to get a sequence of emails to be set up. So then you can type all of that in, and then it will generate what it thinks the automation, like what you're trying to build. And so similarly, like that just takes away all the fear around building it, because it takes like all the techie stuff out of it, and it makes it a conversation. And I think similarly with our data, we can say like, I want to see how conversions are increasing or decreasing this month. You can just ask your spreadsheet this, and then it will show you a chart and explain, oh, it's going this much. Because again, in the past, like I've done a lot of academic research. I've used SPSS. It is scary. It's frightening to use. And I think AI can make it less frightening. So I'm really, really excited about that aspect of things. And I honestly like Google spreadsheets. If you just use it, and there's like a little star with the Gemini in there, and you can start playing around with it. And Google Analytics too, which also is really scary. I think they're going to input all kinds of AI capabilities into it that's going to make it not scary anymore. So you can actually track how people clicking through links is affecting their purchase intent and all these other things. So anyway, I could go on about this for a long time. I'll hand it over to you, Francisco.
Oh, my AirPods are dying. Actually, I did a list I want to share probably for people that are listening. You can just, if you want to take notes quickly. But actually, Google Analytics 4 already has AI to do forecasting. No, so let's say you can track activity of this month, and then any variation they are able to forecast with AI. So that is already there for you, waiting. No, then I would say ways that AI can help us. As Carrie says, data analytics likely is the painful part of the job. So having tools like Google Analytics that have already AI to do forecasting on user behavior and interactions is a big one. Then we could go in the area of sentiment analysis. For instance, there is a tool named Brandwatch that also has AI already to help you understand internal member sentiment in your communities. Then they have a script that you can place to kind of start tracking that. Then the third is personalization and recommendations. Like let's say how your members interact each other, how you connect one-to-ones, and all this stuff can also already be done with AI. There is a platform named intros.ai that all does for communities easily. They have a few integrations already with Slack and others. Then predictive analysis. For instance, This one is a big player. Probably not everyone can use it, but Salesforce Einstein also has an AI tool that you can use to understand customer behavior, and also you can mostly detect what are they looking for. So you know what articles write about, what topics to cover, what your events should be about. Now, if you understand which keywords are being searched. Then on the automation, we have chatbots, virtual assistants. For instance, Zendesk also has an answer bot, Zendesk. It's also powered by AI. Member onboarding, for instance, Intercom has that. Now with AI, people can actually be onboarded 100% through the bot. And then if any questions of your onboarding process are there, all data is pushed directly to your CRM. So the visibility is amazing. Again, AI. And I would say the last one that sometimes it can be overwhelming, but AI is simplifying how that works is Tableau. It's also another one that is already, with AI implemented. Tableau. It's a large community, Tableau. Yeah. This is how I say Tableau. I'm not sure what is the right way to say Tableau, but
that's right, Tableau.
Tableau.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah, Tableau and Looker, they're like the two big ones that I see a lot. But I mean, this is just, it's reminding me, Grazitti and Search Unify. I mean, what Search Unify is able to do, that's a Grazitti product on communities, is incredible. And it can predict and give recommendations, but it can also write content for you that you can then moderate before sending and all of that. So I'm so hopeful that a lot of the dredge work of this will go away. I think that there's a number
of fun part.
Yeah, exactly. Like we get to bring people together. Like that's what really needs to happen. We get to surface. Ask the right questions. Surface, or like facilitate conversations about the gray areas of whatever topic area is important, because those are the kinds of things that the AI is not going to be able to help us figure out, at least not for a very long time. So I think there's plenty of work for us to do. As April was saying here, AI will supplement, it can never replace. I agree with that.
Yep, absolutely. And as just mentioned, Carrie, I think the way we have to work, we need to ask the right question, what we have to analyze, what we have to draw, and what we have to get. And tools, which was mentioned by Francisco, I think these tools are happening, and we need to know how to use them to get the best optimal optimizing out of it. Otherwise, giving a tool is just similar to other tools which we have already inside in community. So thank you, folks. I think thank you, Carrie and Francisco, for sharing it. Truly incredible insight with us today, and I'm sure we are going away from this after learning so much information and how to make our communities the best ones. So before we wrap, can we take a few questions from the audience in the QA section we have already? Okay. So this is a fun question. What is the most unique, bizarre KPI you guys have previously tracked? Francisco or CMJ? It's a fun question.
Funny.
I have one.
You have one, Francisco?
The bad words rate.
What is it?
Bad words rate.
Oh, like a moderation.
Yeah.
Interesting. For safety?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We have I can share context later, but this is one funny parameter.
I'm trying to think if there's anything. I mean, we do really custom KPIs in terms of we'll send out surveys and then create aggregate scores on them. They're not very fun. They're not
KPIs.
Yeah, they're like a survey somebody fills out and it gives a really custom score. But in terms of unique, they're completely custom to the client.
Next question. How do you see the active to total number members ratio and membership longevity as a direct, indirect part of revenue generation from the communities? It's like active to total members ratio as a direct, indirect revenue generation. So if I'm understanding it correctly, how do you manage and map let members who are like long in the system are the part of direct or indirect revenue generations. How do you track, see these active? Any thoughts here, or we can move on to the next question?
I mean, I think it's an important metric to track, like the total active versus the active membership rate or participation rate is really, really important. How you tie that to revenue generation is, as we mentioned earlier, entirely context dependent. So there's no one way to answer that question. What I will say is that you can build models that show a correlation between activity, like active rates in a community, and upsell. So again, like this is something that you could, if you started to track, tying everything together in a CRM, you could start to look at, okay, this member is this % active and spends this much with us. And you can compare active rate, how active members are compared to what they're spending, like their lifetime value or another kind of revenue related metric.
For instance, to add on that, maybe they can just create tiers. If they know like the participation rate is like up to 7 overall, but people in the range from 1 to 3 is as average spending this and that. People above 4 up to 6, this and that, and people on the 7 kind of that could be a way to try to set buckets and then measure the engagement or how active they are, on that percentage to track, and then you can measure revenue in this way, maybe.
Yep, bifurcation, categorization, segmentations of users indirectly.
Exactly.
Yep. Exactly. Cool. So guys, what are some of the favorites, tools or platforms for tracking metrics and proving ROI for you guys? Any sort of not favorites, but good tools or that you prefer?
In my case, I like the mix of Mixpanel and Segment. That combo is really good, like really good. And then for touch points to keep track of everything, the Salesforce. For reporting, Mixpanel is easier to create dashboards, but for touch points, Salesforce is amazing.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to add Google Analytics is old standby. And I've been just using like Circle as the platform that I use for my community, and they've done a big update on their analytics capabilities, and I've actually found them to be really helpful for a membership type of community.
And it's too user friendly. Google Analytics, it's too user friendly. It's wonderful to use. You really feel.
Yes. It's gotten so much better. Yeah, over the last few years, it's gotten so much better.
Okay, so we'll take last question. How do you sell the cost of new platforms or services to your clients or to companies like Brandwatch or Sprout? That's a question from April. How do you sell the costs?
Okay.
Like new platforms.
I would say that if a platform is automating and helping you save time, you can just split your hourly rate, and that will translate in lots of revenue saving. Like usually without the tool I'm spending 8 hours at the end of each month reporting on this. Maybe your hour is 150, 100, whatever, and then you say, so the subscription for this tool is 100, 200, and one of my days 1K for you. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So easy to. That's easy math. Then you can add more perks. How much maybe you can, let's say, in one day. In my case, I do every Tuesday 1 hour orientation session for our product. So for me, likely we are tracking how many people after the orientation session are converting and upgrading. So I would say, hey, if I'm saving 1 hour, I can do one orientation session extra, and that means we can get 4 clients upgrading. That's a lot of savings. So there are many ways that you can articulate what you can do in certain hours, translating how much you can save just by using us to help you.
Right, guys. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add I usually sell it in as part of annual budget cycle. It's much harder to get approval like, randomly in the middle of the year than it is to build it into your budget. So figure out when budgets get approved and throw it in there. See if anybody asks questions.
That's a nice tip. Thank you, CM. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So thank you, Carrie and Francisco. It was amazing talking to you. You have shared your expertise, your professional level, what you have been doing. Wonderful. Thank you. And as we conclude, any final thoughts from you, Carrie and Francisco? Or
first, just thank you for the privilege. I'm really pumped of having this time to share with you, with Carrie, and with everyone else here. We got more than 50 people joining on during the call, so it was really amazing. And also, just like a small advice, be patient. Nothing is done in one day. Usually people say Rome was not built in a day. Either your dashboard, either your KPIs. So be patient, but keep building brick by brick, on those KPIs, and you will be fine.
Thank you.
Yeah. Very much, I will second that. Step by step, that's how all of this work gets done. And somebody else mentioned it here. It's harder to do that work when you're a team of one or solo doing this work. So find other community managers who you can talk to about this. I have a community. I shared the link to it here. And we would love to have you in our community, but there's a number of places. Francisco just shared he's doing a conference both online and in London this July. I just referred somebody to go there yesterday, nice. Francisco, who's in London.
Oh, nice.
So it's so important because not only do you need patience, but you also need friendship and camaraderie through this, because the work can strangely, ironically, be quite isolating and lonely. So don't build community alone.
Yep. Keep everyone's hand held together, I would say.
Yes. I like that metaphor.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Francisco?
I said I like that metaphor.
Okay. Thank you. Before we log off, guys, we have a lot more exciting events coming by in few days and weeks. First of all, it's Marketing Refocus by Grazitti Interactive. It's a virtual conference, and it's coming to the 4th edition. And for that, we have a community fireside chat with my colleague Shweta, and would be community stalwarts Alan and Adrian. So try to tune in on Wednesday, 5th June at 9:30 a.m. PDT. I think we already have in chat box the links. And Francisco has a special event also in July. And would you like to tell us about it, Francisco, or you have already added in the chat box?
I just put the link there, but yes.
Perfect.
So the summit is named Community-Led World. It's happening in London and online on July 10th. Brian Oblinger is coming. We have Nikki Thibodeau coming. We have also Gillian, the head of community from Calendly, coming. Also Rachel Silvano from Zapier. She's running operations for the community there. She's also coming to kind of speak for us. On top of the big UK and Europe talent that is already closed. So we are happy because it's the first time that an event of this magnitude is happening in the UK or around Europe. So yeah, so this side of the pond also deserves some love.
Yep. Thank you, Francisco.
Thank you.
And thank you to our audience for being part of this webinar. Thank you so much. Until next time, stay connected and keep building the vibrant communities. Have a great day, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.